morning. Our next speaker is Lou App. He will be doing part of a keynote presentation that he presents at a middle school next month, teaching the youth how to prepare for and win a speech contest. So with that in mind, if you have any suggestions, please feel free to share them so that he can share them with the youth as well. Lou App might not be your typical speaker. Lou App was born in Hollis, Queens to a teenage mother. Now when you hear Lou speak, you're going to realize, Lou App, Queens, I hear it. You're totally going to hear it. Raised by the streets, following all the wrong people, Lou App went from being a lost soul that no one thought would amount to anything to now being the author of 6 books, an amazing speaker, and also a certified world-class speaking coach. He loves to crack jokes, tell stories, and practice his speech craft at AA meetings. Give it up for your next speaker, the one and only Lou App.
Raise your hand if you love children. Okay? Now, raise your hand again if you love to speak. Come on, that's the reason why we're here. That's everybody, right? All right, well, great. Someone told me once, matter of fact, a great speaker told me once that never pass up the opportunity to speak. Never pass up the opportunity to speak, especially if you want to be a great speaker one day. So never pass up the opportunity to speak. Hence the reason why I'm here right now. Hence the reason why I have a speaking engagement to give at a middle school next month in Mableton. Simply because about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was in my Toastmasters class, cracking jokes, relaxing, chilling. And the Toastmaster for the day, which is the host for the day, he said to me, Lou App, we're missing a speaker. By any chance, do you have a speech in your back pocket that you would like to give today? And as much as I want to look at him and say, no, not even the speaker have the speech ready for today, I thought about it and I heard that voice in my head. Lou App, never pass up the opportunity to speak. So I did it. I sat down real fast, started writing a bunch of things that I could possibly speak about, got up there, knocked it out the park, and lo and behold, we had a guest that day who represents middle schools with children, and she said to me, hey, I like your presentation today. By any chance, would you like to come and speak to the children at the middle school? And I said, as much as I wanted to say, middle school? At this point, just say, middle school? Again, I heard that voice in my head that said, never pass up the opportunity to speak. So I said, oh, yes, I'll do it. So she asked me if I could put something together along the lines of how to prepare and or win a speech contest, because that's what we're getting ready to do, and make it very engaging. So I said, of course, I'm your guy. I know all about speech contests, winning, and all of that stuff. So I agreed. Now, with that in mind, I figured, what can I possibly show them about a speech contest with a short amount of time? I figured, okay, the main elements: a great intro, some good stories, and a great outro. Because of course what? People remember best what they hear first and what they hear last. Am I right? At least in the sense of what you say first either grabs their attention or it makes them say, just a regular speaker. So these are the things that I figure I'll work on with them. And if I'm going to tell them about having a great intro, that means I need to open with a great intro as well, right? Right?
Yes.
Okay. So let's fast forward to the actual event site location, and I'm there with the children. Right after they introduce me, I hit them with the stare. The pause. And then finally, the smile. And this is all before I even speak. Because sometimes, you know how children are, they're going to be fidgeting with each other, messing around, tapping and elbowing each other. But if I get up there and I just completely just be quiet, eventually they're going to say, what's going on? Maybe we should pay attention to him. And that's when I'll hit them with the great intro, which goes something like this. Which will go a little something like this. Do you remember your favorite Christmas? You know, the one that you got all the gifts that you wanted, and you didn't even have to wait to play with the toys because it came with batteries? Do you remember that Christmas? I'm sure you do, right? Well, my greatest Christmas was just this past Christmas, simply because I actually won a speech contest. What? I went to this place that specializes in telling stories. I went, told a grand story, and I won. So, if that's where you would like to be eventually one day, winning at your speech contest, well, there are 3 key elements to possibly help propel you to that victory, or at least to better preparation. And the first thing is having a great intro. Now, let me come back to the speaker's lab for a second. I'm going to engage with them. So what I'm going to do is call up 2 children each time to do one of the different keys. So, now that you have a general idea on what a great intro is, which, I'll go into a little more detail. I let them know, a great intro can be something that makes the audience think. It can be something that you just start with a story. It can be a stat, but probably won't say that to the children. So I'll tell them, look, why don't you just try opening with a story? Or one of the most powerful words in public speaking is imagine. You can say to them something like, imagine the last time you had to spank your child, or the last time you got a spanking. It just brings that person back to that actual moment that thing happened, or if they can relate. So then I'll call up, a child and say, okay, let's work on an intro that you have. And I'll let them speak, then I'll critique it, give them a couple of pointers, say do the same thing for the next one. And then the second point, which is, like I said, storytelling. I give them a demonstration of a story, and then I'll say, okay, some of the key elements that you want to add to a story would be something like maybe brief description of your character that you're talking about. I might say, there was a woman that came up here before me in a green sweater with very nice natural hair. And she told us about never settling for, she told us not to accept BS from anybody or be willing to walk out the door. You see, so just that key element of adding, what the person looks like helps other people to visualize the characters that you're discussing. So that's another thing. Or you can bring in the different senses, like checking the VAX. VAX is like the visual, the auditory, and the kinesthetics. If you can somehow put something in your speech to pull these elements in, like if you say something like, it was a Saturday morning, and all you can hear is the copy machine going. You can smell the coffee brewing in the room. Everyone is standing there, waiting for the next moment. It kind of like makes everyone say, wow, I remember the last time I had coffee, or man, I wouldn't mind having a coffee right now. So when you add different elements to your speech, like visual, auditory, kinesthetic, you're pretty much grabbing everyone in the audience, because not everyone learns the same way. Not everyone is attracted to the same things within their speech. So now that's the story part. Then I'll tell them about the importance of having a great outro. After I say everything to them, then I'll end it off with something like this. If you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. If you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. Then I'll have them repeat it. Okay, now everyone repeat it with me. If you fail to plan,
You plan to
let's
fail.
try this again. Everyone in the room, let's try it. Okay, ready? If you fail to plan, then you plan to fail.
Plan to fail.
One more time. If you fail to plan,
You fail to plan,
then you plan to fail.
you plan to fail.
And that's how I'll pretty much end it with them. All right. Suggestions, comments?
Great, let's start with Gene.
So, I think it was, so I was a little confused. I thought it was a speech to kids. And you started off with just telling us, I guess it's setting context, right? So, and then you were telling the story of how you got the speech. And which I think you're good at story, right? So you won the contest recently. And it's entertaining. Like I wrote down in my notes that when you said the words, when you did the whisper, like the use of your voice is very good. And you said the words, yes, I'll do it. Like you said it very hesitancy, that high voice. That's really good. The thing though that I finally figured out you were doing context, and then you were doing, this is the structure for the speech. So we're not really a speech, right?
It's like a keynote. I have about 45 minutes to an hour to
But
do.
what you just delivered wasn't really a speech, it was a story. This is how it happened.
Right.
This is what I plan to give them.
Right.
And I would,
It
so I'm
was
just called,
Speaking about the speech.
it was speaking about the speech. It was the meta speech, right?
Yes.
And I think, when you talked about the structure, I'm just kind of go into like how you structure, because you haven't delivered this yet, right?
Right now.
Yeah, tell them that they need an intro and good stories in the middle and an outro is great, because that, it's pretty simple. But what's the big thing they need? I actually think, you think that if you plan to fail, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail,
Mm-hmm.
that should be first. I think, because, hey, you don't just wing the speech. Like, the best speeches aren't just, hey, I wrote some notes down and I'm just gonna get up there. You've got a plan to win. You've got a plan to succeed. And if you miss that, so how do you plan? Well, I think those are 3 good points, but I also think, what's the big idea? Every TED Talk is like, there's one idea. In 18 minutes, you have one idea to get across. These are kids, so they have, what is the one thing you want them to, let me ask you, what's the one thing that they need to know if they want to do a good speech?
Probably if I get to one thing,
Yeah.
practice.
Okay. So, talk about practice and say, well, what do you practice? Then you say, well, you practice your intro. But you gotta practice. And I don't disagree with you. Practice is a huge part. But you also have to find out what that one thing is. Because they're gonna give a speech about frogs, or they're gonna give a speech about science or math, or I don't know what they're giving. Like, what's the one idea you want to convey? What does the audience need to know about this?
What are you there to talk about?
Yeah. And, you would talk about problems that happens. So maybe we're getting too much into structure of speech, but I'm like really into, I'm working with Melissa on some stuff, like, what's the problem? Like, how do I tell the problem so that the audience really understands it? And the problem is most kids that don't know how to speak, I didn't know how to speak. They didn't allow us to take speech class until you were a senior at Georgia Tech. I'm like, why can't you take it as a freshman? Like, well, it's reserved for the special class. The fact that they're learning this early, that's great, and I think it will help them immensely. But you've got to connect them. This is your chance to connect with a young group of people and give them one idea that really they can sink in. And practice was a great one. And then you just layer on, what do you practice? Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I'll get on with it.
great.
Appreciate it.
But you're very good with your voice and how you do things. Very entertaining.
Thank you. Well, thank you, sir.
Julie?
Julie?
Piggybacking on what Gene said, if your theme is practice, then I might have a story about bombing on stage. Because I think as kids, hearing that, it'll make them listen to the need to practice.
Yeah.
Great point. Excellent.
And the thing is about practice, it's probably not the first piece of advice. I think the first piece of advice is, what do you have to say?
Mhm.
What is your topic? Let's figure out your topic. Because I love the intro, stories, outro. It's nice and it's simple, but it's not true. Because a story, a collection of interesting stories doesn't turn out to be, okay, wait a minute, what did I learn? And that was interesting, and I was in it, but wait. So what is the topic? That's just my opinion, right? But I think that if you put yourself in their shoes and you ask yourself, what's the pain in the room, what's the problem in the room, what's going on in the room, and you speak into that, you're going to hook them, and this guy gets me, okay, I don't want to speak now. He knows what it's about. And he says, so it might be something like, you kids are bobbing around, they don't want to be on the stage, but what do you have to say? So they really need to be grounded in a point of view and have a topic. And then the stories are great because they're serving a master.
Right.
So the question is, what is the master? It's a big idea, you could call it that, you could call it a focus, you could call it a topic, a thesis, a theme. It's all the same thing. So in the end, the kids need to know what their talk is about and what it is that is their unique perspective. What is your take on it? What do you have to bring to it? We all have experiences, and that's what the stories are about. So I really like that. I think we're just missing that grounding element that makes every speech memorable, which is really, what was the point? What was the topic? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Well, I taught Duke Middle School for a while, so I encourage the kids to follow their interests. So what Melissa's saying too, like have them just think about what they're interested in and then expand on that vein to see what they may want to speak on. Okay. One thing that middle-aged kids, they respond to authority too. So like, be the authority because that really helps, wanting them to listen to it. Middle school kids are generally pretty self-conscious, like just the thought to give a speech in middle school. Nerve-wracking. So like you might have to work with that, planting a seed, like you got something to say, and like I love your point about take your opportunities.
Right.
Take your opportunities in sports, take your opportunities in speaking.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I wrote down exactly what Jean said with choose one or two things, whatever it is you want to get across to them, and hone in on that. And every story should support those two elements. I love the line, people remember what they heard first and what they heard last, and the stories that you told them along the way, and how that made them feel. I thought that was great. You do a lot of this as well, so watch your hands. And then I think I would love to see you move when you step into that voice in your head, that don't ever give up a chance to speak. You whisper it, and I know you're not mic'd here, so it's a little bit different perhaps in that scenario. It was almost too soft for me to hear, so depending on what your audio situation may be there, you may want to just kind of find a different way to step into that voice in your head rather than lowering it down that low. So those were just some key elements, and I think just hone it down into those one or two things, and good.
You were
I
gonna?
have a little more.
Okay, yeah, I noticed that.
I don't know how much time we have, I don't want to.
We got plenty of time. I think
Is the thing still time?
it is still going.
Okay.
I just had some ideas about how to make it fun, interactive exercises that you could do in there.
Okay.
I don't know that population so well, it's been a while, but I do think something fun and engaging, and like all humans, we all love to hear ourselves talk. So maybe you could do something like, you could hand out index cards and say, write down what your topic is on your index card, so write it down. So you guys are ready for a contest, a competition, what's your topic? Write it down. Then tell your partner what the topic is. So the challenge is, can you define it? Can you fit it in one index card, one sentence? That's your topic. You got it nailed, you're clear. Can you explain it to somebody in a way that within 30 seconds or 60 seconds or whatever it is, they get it? Okay, now we also know what each other plans to talk about. So now we know, oh, hey, that's interesting. I'd like to talk more about that. I'd like to hear more about that. So now some energy is being created. The other thing is, you could, if they have trouble picking topics, I don't know what their challenge is, or if it's hard to pick a topic, you could teach brainstorming, because one of the problems I observe with adults is, instead of feeling abundant, I have all these ideas, I will pick the best one. It's like a lid on ourselves to keep our ideas down, and that turns into a stranglehold, because now I gotta prove out this thing that I've decided is it versus open it. Be open, decide, we're open, in the beginning we're open. What are all the important things about that? Let's generate them, let's pile it on. That frees up space, because the truth is in brainstorming, our best ideas are underneath a glut of manure, and we give up usually before that part. When they start to slow down, we think, oh, we got it. But what really happened is we got rid of all the easy available ones. And when it slows down, the juicy ones start to show up. So it could be fun for the kids just to brainstorm some topics.
Right.
The other
I
thing
love how you
is,
put that. Continue.
okay, so then the other thing is about the stories, generate a story about the topic, or what 3 points do you want to make? But I think it's stories, examples, proof points. You could teach about the topic of talking points. What's a talking point? So if you have a topic, what 3 things are really important for you to say about that? What I see with kids is they bail out too soon before they nailed the point. I have a daughter, but she's older, but they bail out too soon and they're not thorough enough.
Okay.
So, but I don't know what the issues are, but yeah, idea Rama, millions of exercises and stuff, if you want to talk about
Idea
it.
Rama. Okay. Idea Rama.
I mean, if you want help with exercises.
Okay, definitely. No, that's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Anyone else? Don't all speak at once. All right, well, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.